My name is Song, Chartered Accountant, licensed GST agent, as well as a tax consultant. Now, today we are going to discuss about the new GST tax codes and the changes on the new accounting software guide, March 3rd, 2018, and the changes to the GST regulation. Hello guys. Now, today we are going to talk about how to use our Scope OS tax code. Now, first of all, how do we use it in the past? Now, in the past, when you ask everyone or anyone, they will say, OS simply use. It's always simply use one. 乱乱用. Okay. Now, this cannot be done anymore. Why? Because there's a regulation change. Effective 1st January 2018, now this total value of GST suspended at the item 14, field 15 of GST 03 is going to change to total value of other supplies, right? Now, what are the components? The components is definitely, when we talk about GS, okay, NTX, OS, our scope definitely, and SRJWS. Now, SRJWS means approved jewelry schemes. Now, when we talk about OS, now first of all, what is OS? OS, under the guide, they say is a supply not within the ambit or boundary of GST. Now, in Malaysian context, very simple one that talks about supply by statutory bodies and local authorities with respect to regulatory and enforcement functions, or government supplies, right? To companies, to individuals. Now, other than that, the second one, they talk about supplies outside Malaysia. For example, in this case, Japan to China, China to Japan is out of scope. The third one they talk about in Malaysian context is drop shipment. Now, what is drop shipment? If you look at drop shipment, now if I'm a local company, I sell goods to my local buyer. Now, the goods is actually delivered from overseas, drop shipment to my client. Now, I can qualify as our scope. Now, in this case, there's no GST. But now, let's look at the guide on accounting software March 8, 2018. Now, March 8, 2018 guide, they say, a registered person is also strongly advised to include other transactions into item 15. Now, this refers to tax code OS. Now, it involves payments and some interpreted as money received from another party or treated as an income. Now, when we look at the examples of that guide, it says examples are disbursement or refundable deposits, contribution, donations, grants, sponsorships, compensation, and other transactions under second schedule of GST Act 2014. Now, let's talk about disbursement first. Now, disbursement, you agree, everyone agree. Now, it's a payment, it's an invoice which issued to your client, for example, but we make a payment on behalf. So we pay on behalf of the client, then we collect back from the client, right? Now, there is no supply. There's no supply at all because it's just a payment on behalf. How about refundable deposit? Now, refundable deposit, if we refer to the new form, now GST 03 says, now 15 is always referred to total value of other supplies. Now, it always refers to supply. Now, but when we look into the Act, now GST Act says supply means all forms of supply, including supply of imported services done for consideration. So consideration is the very important thing. Now, when we look into consideration, now what are consideration? It states money or otherwise, it can be item. And if you look at the second para, they say, now deposit, whether refundable or not, it shall not be considered as a payment made for the supply unless we utilize it on the supply as a consideration. Now, which means, conclusion, refundable deposit is never a supply. But why they change the guide and to say, hey, sorry, now refundable deposit, you also need to declare under field 15. Now, I would say, highly probable is because they are going for a joint audit. Now, RB and Customs has already signed an MOU to say we are going to joint audit. If you want to audit you, we come together, let you pay only once. Now, when we talk about joint audit, this approach is actually quite dangerous, where they will track you from the OS. They can track all the income that you receive, all the money that you receive in the accounts, and they can do a matching to your profit and